Inspired to make this video. And yes, it's called Birkins over babies or babies versus Birkins. And I think it's very intriguing. Well, let's talk about it. Most of the people that I know, they think that a Birkin and or a Kelly is completely unobtainable to them. And that's because, well, sometimes you have to go on a wait list, or you have to pay 3 to 5 times what it's worth or what it may cost in the store, depending on what it is, how old it is, how rare it is. Speaking of which, this one is a 2002 in raisin with the palladium hardware. It is gorgeous. This one is mine personally. I knew the color that I wanted and I knew the size that I wanted after buying about 3 of them and finally discovering which ones spoke to me and which size I needed. If you need help picking out your size, I'd be happy to help you to do that. You'll need to hit me up if you want in my links down in my About Me down there, and we can schedule time and talk. This one is a Kelly 32. Both of these are in a Courchevel. They're both vintage. This is from 1992, so they're 10 years apart. One with gold and one in this beautiful blue. I love both of them. These are ones that I have kept and collected after having, let's see, this is my 4th Kelly, and this is my 3rd Birkin in my collection. The other ones are long gone. I just sold my 3rd one on eBay. So I have a segment that was put out about that one, if you didn't get to see that one, where I sold 200 handbags on eBay starting at $1, and the trials and tribulations and the good things and the bad things about it. Yeah, so that is in my profile too, if you didn't get notifications. So you can go and watch that if you have any questions. It was a whole fiasco. And of course, it's still going on right now. We're in our 14-day return policy period. There was items that had a 14-day policy return. I think the Kelly was one of them. So we'll see if that comes back to me or not. Birkins over babies. And what I want to talk to you about is something that I was inspired by a young lady on TikTok. And she was talking about how people in 2025 are not wanting to have children. And people are, I say people, obviously, people, I can have a baby. Anyone that is legally old enough to have a baby can have a baby. It's something that comes a little bit more natural, obviously, if you have a uterus. I don't have one of those, and so for me to have a kid, I would have to have a little bit more thought and a little bit more preparation, maybe that somebody else out there that might accidentally create a baby. Like I was an accident. Both of my parents were super duper young, and it was really rough for them. And so I've seen and had firsthand knowledge on being a child and growing up in the early 90s and having parents that were broke and self-consumed and children and growing up and trying to raise themselves, all while they were trying to raise me. And I kind of felt like I was the one raising them. I have firsthand knowledge on this type of stuff where we start talking about the Birkin and the chase and the craze, being into luxury and being in the industry of people being obsessed with handbags and being obsessed with cars and being obsessed with buying stuff and consuming and hoarding. And it all roots from different places. And so some people are putting their efforts and energy into having babies because that may pay them bills. Maybe they're getting Section 8. Maybe they're getting food stamps. Maybe they just want to have a lot of children. Children are not for free. Same thing with Birkins. And so you have people that will say, oh, I'll never be able to have a Birkin. I'll never be able to have that bag. And you can. It's actually a lot cheaper to have a Birkin or a Kelly than it ever is to have a child. I mean, average in 2025 to have a children, and the low side, we're talking $300K. And that's from the time that you have them to the time that they're 18. That doesn't include a marriage, doesn't include college, doesn't include you sending them checks for the rest of their life for Christmas, or maybe them even consuming or having and holding your entire estate at the end of it, assuming things go your way and you're well invested yourself if you live past 65. Because I don't know about you, but there are people I've seen out here that are living until 96. And some people are still having to work because they didn't save enough money and everything is going up. No one can really depend on Social Security or pension or retirement to pay for everything. These are the things that I kind of got inspired by hearing this young lady say that she had the power to say no. She's not going to be pressured by society and her people and the family that she is within to have a baby just because that's what you're supposed to do. It's the same thing with the Birkin. People love to have a Birkin. A lot of people want a Birkin. They may not admit to wanting a Birkin. They may not serve them, and maybe they don't have any interest in having a Birkin. There are those out there, but they're harder to find. They're harder and harder to find. What I like to point out to you is that getting a Birkin and having a Birkin is a one-time cost. And the people that I find in my industry that hate on people that are a bag collector or put their money into collections or overconsume, or perhaps maybe they want to buy something like this, a lot of the people that I see out here hating on people that have a lovely Birkin in their collection, and they're going to work, or they've talked about their bag and they're talking about their prize and their possessions and all that. Those young ladies that are talking about those are getting beat down by those that have children, that are divorced, that are unhappy, that they weren't able to have the same way of life to perhaps go and buy one of these, even if it was used. But yet they beat down people that have Birkins and have nice cars and big houses. And a lot of times it is people that chose to have babies over Birkins. And I know a lot of those people. I know a lot of those people that dedicate their entire life to being a mother. And some of them are really good at it, and some of them are really fucking terrible at it. And it's, you really should have chosen a Birkin, because caring for a Birkin is a lot easier than caring for a child. Can I get an amen? Think about my childhood, and I think about my route to get a Birkin and how hard I had to work to go get a Birkin. And that was even pre-owned. Not to mention, finding one that was in my price range that was also a Kelly bag. Now, are these super uber expensive bags? Not relatively to some of the bags in this room and maybe some of the bags in your collection. But they're both real and they both hold financial value. Now, this is value I can get back. They don't cost me, mama. I don't have to change their diaper. I don't have to pay for them for a child's meal. I don't have to buy them a new fucking toy every time they go to Walmart. I have peace. Things are quiet around here. Listen to that. I could take a nap right now if I want to. Turn this camera off, all the lights off, and take a nap the rest of the weekend, because I have peace, I have freedom, and I have my Birkin and my Kelly. And you can have a Birkin, a Kelly, and a peace, and be a parent. But we both know that child and children need attention, consistent attention and reaffirmation and positive encouragement every day. And they need to know that you care about them every single day. And this is part of the reason why I don't have children today. I've thought about it. People have tried to pressure me into it. I've had my mother, I've had people in my family ask me, hey, are you going to adopt any kids? Hey, are you going to adopt any kids? And the answer is no, not right now. Why would I do that when I'm just now getting myself established at almost 40, and I'm just now kind of getting to a situation where my life has slowed down enough where I have peace and I don't have to, worry about whether or not my electric bill is going to be paid or not. And these are the kind of situations I feel like that most people need to put themselves in a situation where they go and buy a Birkin and they go and have a child. People have children all the time with no consideration of the expense or the child's well-being or health. But yet, we want to shame people that have a Birkin. We want to go and buy the work and dream on TikTok. But when it comes to having a child, you can't do that on TikTok. You can't buy a knockoff child on TikTok. You can't do that. So it's easy to obtain a fake one, but it's not easy to obtain a real one without a lot of work. But yet, people are having babies like they could just afford them. This is something that I never, ever, 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 ever will agree with. When people say I'm going to have a baby, I just think, oh, congratulations. And there's a little empathy that comes with it, because I'm just like, oh, wow. Do you really know what you just signed yourself up for? I have one Doberman, and that Doberman consumes all of my attention. He wants every single being of my attention. And the only reason why he's not in my face right now because he's taking a nap. I cannot fathom in 2025 running a business, trying to feed myself, keep my house clean, and having a baby all at one time. I would never want to consume myself or put myself in that situation, because I know my limitations. I know my husband's limitations. I know my household, and I know how peaceful it is. There are too many people out here running into a Birkin situation, and they buy it, and then they have remorse, buyer's remorse. You can't have that when you have a baby. I mean, you can have it, and the child will know it. We can see it. We know. There's been many a times that I have seen And I even have felt like there was buyer's remorse when having a child, because you can see it in the way the parent acts toward the child. You can see it in the way that the child craves attention. You can see it. And that will follow a child forever. Some people would say the same thing about people that carry Birkins. You're craving attention, right? You're carrying this all for the wrong reasons. Now, I'm carrying this because I love this. I know the history behind it. I know the fashion behind it. I know why. I want to carry it. The things I love about it. I love it because it's convenient. I love it because it fits on my body. I like the history behind it. This is from 2002. And so I love a vintage item. If you like a vintage item, you might like some of the content here, and you might like some of the things that I like to say. I don't have children, and so I don't have all of the answers, but I was inspired by this young lady's post about how she couldn't afford to have children, and it wasn't something that she wanted to do. She saw no benefit in having children. But then she wanted to ask whether or not she could use somebody's child on her taxes. So at the end, it was ended very funny. I don't want anybody to get in their feelings about this, but it's very serious. Have you seen the hype that goes into a Birkin and or a Kelly? And people just jump into this with no qualms. But yet people jump into having a baby like that. No preparation, accidents, $300K. You could buy a Himalayan Birkin for the cost of a child. Obviously, one would be more meaningful than the other, I would think, for some people. A child is, wonderful. It's a delicate soul that has to be, raised and molded for 18 years. So think about that next time someone says, hey, I'm pregnant. Because these are the things that I think about when they say that they're pregnant is, wow, you just signed yourself up for 18 years of mama, so much dedication. You'd probably be better off getting a cat.